in 3, 2, 1. If you ever watched like Dora or some other TV show, some other kids' TV show back in the day, they used to do this call and response thing where, they would say something or ask you something and then sit silent for a moment, waiting for you to reply. You never would because you knew the gimmick, but, Dora would go something like, "Oh no, how are we ever going to cross this river?" And then you'd be like, "The boat that's right behind you. It has an oar, sail, and everything you need to get across." And then Dora would be like, "Oh, look at this boat. Very good. Now, how do you say boat in Spanish?" And then you'd be like, "The fuck? I'm 5. Aren't you supposed to be teaching me this?" Anyway, we're going to be doing a call and response thing just like that. So I'm going to say something and then you are going to reply. You are actually going to reply. All right. If you don't say anything, it's going to be really awkward with us just sitting in silence. So anyway, hey guys, how are you doing? It's been a minute. Awful? I am so sorry to hear that. Do you want to talk about it? No. It's okay. We can talk about it. Wow. That is really awful. I'm sorry to hear that. That really sucks. Well, I think it's important to remember that no matter what we're going through, whatever hardship, whatever trial, whatever tribulations we're going through, we're not going through it alone. In the past, hundreds, maybe even thousands of people have gone through the exact same thing. I am sure that many other people are going through the exact same thing that you're going through right now. And forever and ever in the future, people will continue going through the same problem that you're going through. And it's important to remember that if other people can prevail, then so can you. It's not these issues, it's not these problems that define us, but rather how we react to them. Are we going to give into the stress, into the pressure, or are we going to come out on top and say, "Hey, this is really hard right now, but I am going to do my best. I'm going to learn and grow from this situation, and I am going to be a better person because of it." So keep your head up, stay strong, and I guarantee you that you will be a better person at the end of this. Anyway, that's enough about you. Let's talk more about me. It's been 2 months since the last podcast. Dang. Well, that is bonkers. So let's talk about what I've been doing since then. First of all, I have moved houses, hence the brand new studio. It was a process. It was a gigantic undertaking and a lot more difficult than I anticipated it being. I was hoping that, we would move into the new house. We'd get all our stuff out of the old house, move into the new house, and then, take a week to put everything together. And then my studio, my podcast would be up and running again. That is not how it worked out. It turned out that the new room that I'm using, the new studio, half of the outlets didn't work. So we had to fix that first before I could use it, because there's a lot of technology, a lot of things that need to be plugged in for this podcast. So we had to fix that first, and it took literal weeks to get an electrician to come in. But we did that. We got the outlets fixed, so here we are. It also took time to put together the new studio. Oh, I forgot to turn on these lights back here. If you're just listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever, this doesn't affect you at all. But now we have these pretty little lights. Ooh, look at that. In between now and the last podcast, I also switched jobs. I no longer work at the dollar store. I now work at Culver's, and I have to say, I am enjoying it quite a bit. I won't go super into detail about my new job, but I make more. It's closer to home. I'm enjoying it. The people there are frankly much nicer. As far as customers go, I'll say, I enjoyed the people at Dollar Tree too. It's just different. So I think that's all I'll say on that as far as me changing jobs. But let's talk more about the podcast itself. What changes are coming to the podcast in this quote unquote new season, I suppose we could call it. Well, first of all, you may notice that it's just me right now. There is no guest, and it's not going to be that way for every episode. I'm not eliminating the whole guest aspect of this. In fact, I'm definitely going to keep doing it after this because this is awkward and I'm struggling quite a bit. I don't like this. But I thought that this episode would be good to do on my own because I just want to, give you guys an update on my life, what I'm doing, what's going to be happening with the podcast, what I'm changing, because I think that's something that's important to me, being very transparent about what I'm doing and and how that affects all the content that I'm making, because obviously you're listening to me right now. You're consuming what I am creating. So I want to let you guys in on what's going on with all of that. First of all, brand new set. We have these white girl vines behind us. The vines that every white young female puts up in their room. That's just covering the wall behind me. We also have these fairy lights that are blinking right now. I feel like that's a little distracting, but there's not really another good setting. So I'm just going to leave it like that for now. Maybe there will be another one that I like a little better that's not as distracting, but that'll be there for now. The table, I turned it to a different angle. The side is not facing the wall. Now it's the corner facing the wall. I did this so that I could do the different camera angles that I'm doing now. Hey ho, it shows both people now the whole time instead of just one person. That is done so that I can save time on editing. Before, it would literally be me sitting in front of my computer, listening to the entire podcast again, just switching between the two cameras depending on who's talking. And that was very time consuming. I don't have that kind of time. I'm not necessarily trying to cut corners. I don't believe in that, but I do need to optimize my time and try to figure out ways to save time. And I think that this is a good way. Just, two different camera angles. Both people are always being shown, but I can switch between those much easier. It doesn't necessarily have to depend on who's talking. I can just go through and, switch the camera whenever. So I don't necessarily have to listen to the entire podcast again. So I think that'll be a good change. Just the two completely different camera angles. So yeah, what else? New set, camera angles. Oh, another very important update. We can browse the web and watch videos on the podcast now. I have a TV in the studio. So I think it was almost like every episode of the podcast where I would bring up I need a producer so that I can show you this and pull this up. And I think with Jeff, I just pulled up the video on my phone. We were watching Aliens, or the Go Fast video with the Navy pilot following this unidentified flying object, or what's it called now? They don't use UFO anymore because that's too associated with aliens. What is it? UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon. I'm not sure on that. It doesn't matter. The point is that I have a TV in the studio now. It's all hooked up and everything so that me and my guest, if we want to pull up a video or an article or whatever it may be, we can pull that up now on the podcast. Hopefully that works as well as I hope it does, because I haven't necessarily like tried it out or anything, but hopefully that works out, pulling up videos and such on the podcast. Yeah, I know I said I needed a producer for that, but I decided who's a better producer than me? No one. I got it. I can handle that. Let's see here. What else? Oh, another important update. We're releasing on Fridays now instead of Saturday. I used to post at Saturday at 12 a.m. and that was fine. But I figured Friday would be better just because that's when most other podcasts post. It allows people to listen over the weekend. I guess posting Saturday morning does the sort of the same thing, but there's some sort of fancy analytics, statistics, whatever thing to that. So we're posting at Friday now. Friday, 5 a.m. That's when the podcasts are coming out now. So you get it a day early every week. How about that? Let's see here. We're also going to be releasing the podcast bi-weekly now. So instead of every week like I did before, we're going to do it every other week. When I was doing the podcast weekly, it stressed me out so much. From first of all, just finding a guest was really stressful. Not in the sense that I didn't have anyone who wanted to be on or who I knew could be on. Because I do get a lot of offers. I have like a list of people who asked me to be on and who I would be interested in having as a guest. So the part that really stressed me out was reaching out to them and then figuring out a set day and time within the week. And then on top of that, I have to record and then edit the podcast all within a week while also trying to keep up a schedule of 5 videos a week for my main YouTube channel. And then I also have to keep up with my job at the dollar store that wasn't exactly a consistent schedule. That was probably the hardest part of it all, was the fact that my actual job, the job that pays me money, didn't exactly have a consistent schedule. So it was just so stressful, so wacky, and it wasn't really fun at all. I had fun with the podcast, but the stress wasn't worth it. I'll just leave it at that. The stress kind of took away a significant part of the enjoyment of it. So I think if I do them bi-weekly, I'll enjoy it more. I won't be so stressed about every single episode. We're just gonna take it casual right now. Just every other week. That leaves me a lot more room for finding a guest and setting up a date. We don't have to do it within the week. I have 2 weeks to record, need be, and then editing will be significantly easier, but I'll have more time to do that too. So we're going to do bi-weekly. We're just going to try it out. If I figure out a way to start doing it weekly again, then I will certainly start doing it. But for right now, bi-weekly. I also have other plans to do more on top of the YouTube channel and the podcast. I also want to get into streaming. Right now, I'm thinking 3 days a week. We'll figure it out depending on how my schedule works. But yeah, so that's why we're doing the podcast bi-weekly now. Every other week, bring on a new guest. We'll have some fun for an hour or two, and it'll be dope. Last update on the podcast, we're not going to be doing as many clips. I usually would post 3 to 4 clips for every podcast episode that I did. And those weren't a lot of fun to make. There was a certain amount of fun to making them, but I don't like just putting together 4 videos of just shortened versions of something I already did. it just wasn't as much fun as doing the podcast itself, and it was kind of draining just figuring out like what clips to do and then making separate clips for every single social media that I would post it on. It added a lot of extra work that I didn't necessarily enjoy. So instead of 3 to 4 clips, we'll bring it down to 1, maybe 2. I think for some, I might not even have any clips. We'll see how that works out, but we're going to be limiting the number of clips. You know, in hindsight, the changes I'm making are kind of we're kind of regressing a little bit in the sense that, you know, most podcasts, they post weekly and they post a ton of clips because that optimizes the podcast for growth, but I just don't care. I do this for fun right now. If I can turn this into a career, awesome. But for right now, it's just purely for the fun of it. And I want to keep that aspect of it. I don't want to have to stress out about it from week to week. I just want it to be an enjoyable thing. And that's not to say that I don't expect any stress from it, but I just adding all this extra stress to it that I don't have to be dealing with, it does sap the fun out of it. So we're gonna keep this nice and lighthearted, and I'll leave that at that. So yeah, that's all the updates coming to the podcast. New set. Can browse the internet now. We're releasing on Fridays at 5 a.m., doing it bi-weekly, and not as many clips as before. So that's about all the changes. That's not too bad, right? We have a new fancy set that I'm really happy with. The high key think that this is significantly better than the other set, actually. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get back into this. Very, very excited. And time for my shameless plug. If you would like to support this podcast, please go to the support this podcast link in the description. All you have to do is enter your name, your email, your credit card, and the amount you want to donate monthly. It can be as little as 99 cents a month, or it can be as high as $10 a month. Every single dollar genuinely helps the podcast. It seriously helps a ton. The whole reason that I'm able to show clips now is because of the money that people have already contributed. I was able to buy all the extra equipment, all the cables, all the techie stuff to hook up the TV and everything to the computer and the mixer and whatnot. All that was money. All that was bought with money donated by my current supporters. So to my current supporters, thank you so much for that. You guys are genuinely contributing to the podcast in a significant way. And if you want to join the supporter club, just go ahead and go to the support this podcast link that is in the description on whatever platform you are watching/listening on. Oh, and by the way, you can cancel anytime. All you have to do is go to the confirmation email that is sent to you when you do sign up for monthly donations, and you can cancel from that email. So if you're worried that you're going to get stuck with these donations, don't worry about it. It's all good. I'm not going to hold it against you if you quit contributing. It's all good. So yeah, it would be greatly appreciated, but certainly not necessary. Do you hear the train? Hold on. Can you hear that? I don't know if you can hear that. I mean, you should be able to, considering that I can hear it through my headphones. But I live right by some train tracks that trains actually go down on. And I think it's right by a railroad crossing too. Like anytime... I think it's a law that anytime a train goes over a main road or some sort of railroad crossing, they have to, pull their horn. It's not often, but every now and then you'll hear a train go by, and it's really loud. It gets in all my recordings. So I try to work around that. I just thought that was funny. Oh, And not only is it the train, but I also live semi near an airport. So there's always planes flying over my house while I'm recording. So that's that's another funny thing. That wasn't planned at all. I just noticed that. So yeah. Anyway, something I haven't done before, but am going to try out now is a Q&A. I wanted to do it for this one specifically since this is, my episode. I'm my own guest this time around. But yeah, I just thought it would be fun to answer a few of your guys' questions. So first up, we have, remember the fruit snacks? Stuff about middle school days? Yeah, I do remember the fruit snacks. Let's see here. I used to go to a lot of youth group meetings with the church around here, City First, previously known as Rockford First. And in every, not necessarily the youth group meetings themselves, but if we had a get together that wasn't necessarily part of the actual church youth groups, I would always bring fruit snacks. Not just some fruit snacks, a giant box of fruit snacks, the big, however many packs it is, the big box of Welch's. I'd get one of those every time. And they would get everywhere. There would be, anytime we had those, the wrappers would be everywhere by the end, all around the room. Everyone would be sick because each person would eat 10, including myself. But that was always fun. I do remember that. Next up, we have a question from my good friend Adam. If you could have any person, dead or alive, on the podcast, who would it be? Whew, that's a good one. There's a lot of interesting people in the world, especially if you include all the dead ones. There's some interesting dead people who I would like to, pick at their brain. But I think one thing that's always consistent is that artists, real genuine artists, are some of the most interesting and thoughtful people. I brought this up on the podcast before, but I think not ancient really, but the ukiyo-e era of Japanese art was really interesting because of the technical skill and just the attention to detail that was required for that style of art. One of my favorite artists, no, not even one of my favorite artists, my favorite artist of all time, Hokusai, came from that era. And I just wonder what kind of wisdom he would have to offer. No, because these people dedicate their lives to this craft, to perfecting this craft. They have to have knowledge of how to use paints, how to carve things out. And I think there's not always, but a certain amount of real life wisdom comes with that. Just this understanding of, oh, I'm paying attention to detail in this. Maybe that's how I should just treat life in general. Does that make sense? If I had to equate this to someone who's living today, someone I also brought up before is this man named Jiro. He is quite possibly the most renowned sushi artist alive today. And he owns this quaint little shop in a subway in Japan, and as kind of a weird place for that to be, as weird of a place as it is for a sushi shop to be, what's even stranger is that it is the most renowned sushi shop in the world. Just a small little shop in a subway, and his sushi is the simplest thing. It's typically just rice with a slice of fish on top. But it's widely known as the most wonderful tasting sushi that is known today. And this man, Jiro, has such an interesting philosophy about his work, how dedicated he is to his work, how much attention to detail he has, and how he's always trying to improve. So he has a really good documentary called Jiro Dreams of Sushi that I think explains his philosophy really well. I don't necessarily know if he would be the person I would want to have on, but I think, other artists, I do consider food, cooking, culinary arts to be art. So I just think artists in general, whether you are cooking, whether you're painting or drawing, whatever it is, I think there's a lot of artists out there who have really good just general wisdom about life itself or how they treat life and how they look at it. That especially if it's conveyed through their work. I think, just Hokusai, the ukiyo-e artist who is known for the Great Wave off Kanagawa, that painting that you see everywhere. I think he would be the one to go to. My friend Aiden, who was on the podcast before, asks, do you think we will ever fix our climate crisis, or are we just doomed? It's interesting that you asked that because, I don't... Look, I don't know whether we can or not. It certainly looks like we are just doomed, but I don't understand. I don't completely understand the science behind it. I'm not a scientist who has studied this their entire career. So I'm not exactly the person to be asking. But I think, in my opinion, oh, that was a gnarly burp. My bad. Well, this is just my personal opinion, but I don't necessarily worry about it at all. I'm just one individual being, and while I can do my part and try to, consistently recycle, save on electricity, save on how often I'm driving or getting a Tesla instead of some sort of, I don't know, Ford truck. There's different ways for me to, do my part in preventing and trying to prevent a global climate crisis. But, in the grand scheme of things, I'm sure if every single person did their part, it would help greatly in CO2 emissions. But, as far as carbon dioxide emissions go, most of it is from big business. Most of it is from large industries that have factories everywhere that are constantly producing. Those people, those institutions are the main ones that have to change. I can do my part, but it's these big businesses that really have to cut back on it. And whether or not they will, I do not know. Yeah, I just don't know. I am not well versed in this issue, but I think one way to look at it is that even if we are doomed in this global crisis, this global climate crisis, it doesn't change much, really. I mean, maybe it's going to cause problems in the near future, but look at it this way. We were going to have a crisis in the future, whether we wanted to or not, maybe not in the form of climate change, but in a few billion years when the sun engulfs the earth, we're definitely not going to be around after that. So not that the climate issue doesn't matter to me, but I don't think it's worthwhile for me to worry about. I want to do my best to not contribute to it. I can start by recycling this water bottle. And not supporting the businesses that do put out fossil fuel emissions. But on my own, I'm not going to change anything as much as I do my part. And even if I do my part, humanity is doomed in the end anyway. So what is there to worry about? This is a really sucky answer, but that's my answer. My answer is I don't care. My opinion doesn't matter because we're all dead in the end anyway. Next question. I'm trying to read this off of my phone. What is your testimony to giving your life to Jesus? Sorry, I don't mean to laugh at that. I'm just laughing. I'm really laughing at the answer I'm thinking of. Well, the truth is that I have not given my life to Jesus. I have never been baptized, though I have grown up in a Christian household all my life. I have gone to church for more Sundays than I've gone to church more Sundays than I've not gone to church. I think that's a good way of putting it. But it's just never really. I've just never really clicked with it, I guess, the whole Christianity thing. That's not to say that I have something against it. I definitely don't. I think Christianity gets a much worse rep than it deserves due to the extremists in that community, which in my opinion aren't necessarily real Christians anyway, but just like in any other community, whether that be Republicans, conservatives, liberals, vegans, whatever community you may belong to, the extremists who go too far, who push the agenda way past what most people are actually asking for, those are the people that kind of ruin it for everything else. And I think the same applies to Christianity. Everyone expects well, not everyone, I shouldn't say that, but in general, I think the way Christians are portrayed or expected to be is, very Republican, very closed-minded, not very open to. It's getting really smoky in here. I forget that there's not really good ventilation. Oops. from the incense that I'm burning, it's really smoky in here. What was I saying? I got so distracted by that. But the point being that Christians in general, I don't view as bad. And I think if you want to look at it objectively, most Christians aren't bad people. They just have different beliefs. If you want to respect Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, or whatever other religion people belong to, you also have to respect Christianity, because there's issues with all religions, especially Scientology, but I won't get into that. But I just think I'm not against Christianity, not at all. I just haven't really clicked with it the same way my family have, the same way that people around me have. I've never given my life to Jesus formally, and I don't necessarily plan on it. I think religion in general, Christianity or not, serves a similar purpose as philosophy. I do think that if you're not studying a religion, it's good to study philosophy, because whether you agree with all of the principles in Christianity or any other religion, I think, if you do have a good general, not construed understanding of the Bible, then you do understand that it's not all about converting every single person and judging everyone who isn't a Christian, though that may be a part of it for some people. I don't. A large portion of it, I think, is just trying to make people just make better people, to make people kinder to each other. You know, the 10 Commandments, there's nothing, the sort of basis for the law of Christianity isn't anything bad. You know, it says, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery. Like those aren't bad philosophies to be following. I think the issues come when you start interpreting all the other lines of the Bible, which there are many of, and what was I saying? Interpreting those lines in certain ways that aren't very good. I guess my point is that religion serves a similar purpose to philosophy, and I don't find any fault with that. I think it does a lot of good for a lot of people. It just isn't for me. I personally was more inclined towards studying philosophy, namely Stoicism. Stoicism did me a lot of good to read up on. And I think this is kind of a part of Stoicism, but I think my personal philosophy is that I want to be a good person. I want to learn from my mistakes. I want to grow and be a better person every day. Though I am flawed, I do my best to be a good person. And whether or not God exists isn't necessarily an issue if you're just trying to, or shouldn't be an issue if you're just trying to be a good person. Because if you are a good person and God doesn't exist, then you've simply just been a good human being and contributed to society. Or if God does exist, then there's no reason for him or her. You know, it's 2021. Maybe there's a lady Jesus out there. That was dumb. No, as long as you've been a good person, there's no reason for God to frown upon you. Whether or not you dedicated your life to him shouldn't really matter. If you've been a good person and there is a heaven, then you belong in heaven. And if you go to hell for simply being a good person, and all because you didn't dedicate your life to God, then I wouldn't want to serve that God anyway. You know, that, in my opinion, would be so selfish of God, just to condemn you to hell for the rest of eternity, just because you didn't dedicate your life to him, even though you, I don't know, donated to charity and said hello to your neighbors every day. That would be terrible, and I wouldn't want to serve a God like that anyway. So I went on a whole tangent. What was the question again? What is your testimony of giving your life to Jesus? I never gave my life to Jesus, but I have no issue with people who do give their life to Jesus, unless you are just a sucky person, in which case I just have a problem with you, not necessarily the fact that you gave your life to Jesus, but I just have a problem with you because you're a sucky person. And yeah, that's about it. Just be a good person, Christian or not. That should be the philosophy. Next question. What is the ultimate goal for your channel? So, I think I'm going to talk mostly about my main channel here, because the podcast, in my eyes, is sort of a side gig. Not that I don't hold it to as high of importance, but you know, the YouTube channel, the videos that I make for my main channel are really where my passion lies. And my goal is really just to be able to support myself with my channel, to be able to make enough money to pay for rent, to pay for insurance, to pay for food, all that stuff. I'm just looking to be able to support myself. Anything after that is just a bonus. I guess in that sense, the minimum you need for monetizing your channel is 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time. So really that's just the goal. That's the only real goal I have at the moment, just to get to that point where I can make money for myself off of it. That's all I really want from it. That's all I really desire. Anything after that, like I said before, that's just a bonus. If I reach 1 million subscribers, awesome. If I only ever reach 100,000 or 50,000, whatever. I don't need a lot. I don't necessarily even want a lot. I just want enough to be able to, put all my life, all my resources into what I love doing, which is making the videos for my YouTube channel. So thank you, Paul. That was a very charming question. This is from Stefan. Mac with or without cheese? Well, there shouldn't even be two options there. You should only be able to have mac with cheese. If you're eating just straight macaroni elbows, that is strange, sir. The next question is also from Stefan. Cheese with or without mac? The next question comes from Story. Thanks for being on the podcast, by the way. What is your hair care routine? Thank you for asking. I don't do too much for my hair, though it is, okay, my hair is very thick and very curly, so it always feels dry all the time. And if it's not dry, it's very, very oily. It's so hard to work with, but but I think I have a decent hair care routine considering how simple it is. Basically, I just take a shower normally. I shampoo. I go between tea tree oil shampoo because that feels nice on your scalp. It's very good for your scalp. I also sometimes use a coconut-based shampoo. There's a few other ingredients in it. I couldn't tell you what they are, but it's supposed to just like a nice shampoo especially for my type of hair. It's just nice. It just makes my hair nice. So that cleans out my hair. That cleans out the oil, all the dirt, all the whatnot. Just shampoo. Just shampoo, like most people. I use coconut conditioner, whatever conditioner I use. I do switch brands depending on how broke I am. Sometimes I'll use this brand called Shea Moisture. That's like it's not like high-end conditioner, but it is more expensive. It's just coconut conditioner with a few other things in it. It makes my hair nice. Coconut products are great for my type of hair. I will say if you have thick curly hair, try out a bunch of coconut-based products. It will work wonders. Coconut is really, really good. I don't know why, but it's really nice. Coconut is good for my hair. Or Shea Moisture, or I think the brand is called OGX. That's like the cheaper one. You can get like a bottle 3 times the size of my Shea Moisture bottle for cheaper with that brand. So if I'm feeling a little extra broke, I'll go with that brand. It's just another coconut-based conditioner. Same deal. The ingredients, I will say, aren't quite as nice on my hair, but it gets the job done. Makes my hair nice enough, and that's all I really care about. I brush in the shower, only in the shower, while my hair is wet and with conditioner in it. So we are limiting how much hair I'm pulling out when I am brushing, and we are avoiding making my hair really floofy. Because let me tell you, I used to brush my curls out constantly. I used to be kind of insecure about my curly hair. I always wanted like straight hair. For a while, I even considered chemically straightening it, and I'm glad I didn't. But people noticed that I would brush out my hair or brush out my curls in my hair, and they would tell me, just stop that. Don't do that. So I quit. I give into peer pressure really easily, if you couldn't tell. But yeah, I brush my hair in the shower when I have conditioner in it, just to get all the tangles out, make it all nice and smooth, while also avoiding the frizz and the poof that comes with brushing it outside of the shower. And then after I'm done with the shower, I will put in some leave-in conditioner. I use another Shea Moisture brand product. It's Jamaican Black Castor Oil leave-in conditioner. I just put that one is one that you actually focus on your scalp. So I put some on my scalp, and then I also drench the ends in it, and then I just work it through the rest of my hair, and it turns out quite nice. So yeah, that is my hair care routine. Anyway, that is all I have planned for this podcast. This went a lot better than I expected. I mean, of course, I hoped that it would be really good, but I mean, I didn't really extensively prepare for this. I had some notes on my phone on what I wanted to cover, and I covered all of it, and that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it was just kind of me rambling on for a while, but if you are still listening, I seriously appreciate it, and it means a ton to me. And just to everyone who has stuck by the podcast and does listen regularly, thank you so much. It means a lot. Thank you for waiting. I know it was much longer than I had hoped for, but thank you for being patient. Thank you for waiting for me to come back. And yeah, just thank you. Thank you for all your support, whether you do support financially or if you just listen. All of it is a big deal to me. It means a lot, and I have nothing but appreciation for everyone who listens. So yeah, that is the podcast. I don't know how to close this. I didn't really plan this far ahead, considering that I actually planned this podcast out. But so yeah, welcome back to Not the Daniel Strohman Podcast. I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, everyone. Bye-bye.